President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the State of the Nation address in the coming week. Some in the education sector are eager to hear what the President will say on education. Previously, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill was announced to amend the South African Schools Act 84 of 1996 and the Educators Employment Act 76 of 1998. Joining us is Professor Mbulungeni Madiba, who's the Dean of Education at Stellenbosch University. Prof, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. As we approach the SONA, what are your expectations, particularly concerning the potential impact on the education sector?
Thank you so much, Ifyaka, and all the viewers. Well, I think it is an open secret, you know, what the President will be focusing much on. It is election season. I assume, really, I suspect that what the President will be focusing much on is on the achievement, you know, of the ANC government, you know, since in the past 30 years. So I really expect to hear a lot. Of course, one thing they will be posting about the transformation, that they brought transformation after 1994, they unify all the 19 government departments. So all the reforms, I mean, you've just mentioned some of them, all these kind of educational reforms that they've done, I think really he will have on some of them, you know, is recycle some of them just to show that they've really achieved something. But I'm not so sure that we will hear much him acknowledging the challenges that the sector has been facing at basic level and also at the higher education level. And I think that would be a pity, because we will expect him to also to be honest and say, we did not achieve when it comes to this particular area.
You're quite right that it is quite a pity that not much will be said on the issue of education. But considering the possible key themes such as economic recovery, social development and the environmental sustainability outlined in the SONA 2024, how do you then foresee the role of education intersecting with some of these other themes?
You see, I think education remains one of our major challenges. And in fact, I mean, it is the foundation. It is the foundation. We can talk about economic problems. We can talk about the climate. We can talk all other things. Education remains, you know, the main foundation. And unfortunately, although government has been giving priority to education, but I don't think it was really the top priority. So I would really expect that, you know, the President would be able to address the failure of the system. For example, I mean, if you take the basic education, it's true that, you know, now the government has widened access. But if you really consider how many of those learners who really got access to education are going through the system and they are really completing. So you realize that a small fraction of those learners are really making it to matric. And then, of course, we celebrate about matric results. So I feel that the issue of dropout, because you really need to get your nation. You need your nation educated. You need to make sure that your learners go through the system. They, at least, because that's where they get skills. They get complete matric, and then from there they can go to other areas. Or if they drop on the way, you need to have another exit qualification that can allow them maybe after grade 9, instead of just going to the street, they need to go somewhere. Then you'll be able to deal with these issues of poverty, you'll be able to deal with issues of unemployment, inequalities, and so on and so on. But knowing that your citizenry, of course, it really has been equipped with certain skills. So that is a main challenge. That is a main challenge that we're not hearing government saying they are going to address dropouts in which format.
So the issue of poor infrastructure, especially in rural schools or poor schools, is a sore point since the advent of democracy. So in the context of the challenges faced by the education sector, such as the one that you've mentioned, and also poor infrastructure at schools, how do you believe SONA 2024 can then address critical issues such as infrastructure quality of education and also inclusivity in schools?
Yeah, look, infrastructure, I must really say that they are still a backlog. There are still muddy schools. There are still pit toilets. That is clear. Research shows that. But when we talk about infrastructure schools, we're not just talking about building. Yeah. You are talking in terms of your lab. Are there labs there? Are there libraries, school libraries there? Of course, is there running water there? Is there electricity? I know that most of the schools now have electricity, although we have got load shedding. So I think infrastructure, we must really look at it that way, that it should be an environment that really enable or allow learners to be able to study. But then there are other challenges. Talk about quality. You see, quality is not really what just happened at school. Quality education, it means the day you start to really have the opportunity to learn. For example, ECD, our learners, usually ECD is a major crisis. It's an area that is failed. So by the time our learners start schooling at the age of 7, it's already too late. Some of the cognitive faculties are no longer functioning. Again, they're already lagging behind those who were privileged and so on, so on, so on. You spoke about rural areas. If you look at where early childhood education is happening, it's only maybe in urban areas, but not in rural areas. So I think quality education means that even before, from 0 to 4, before learners get to grade R, already they are prepared to learn. Their mental faculties are equipped, they are developed, and so on. So really, it would be a pity if the president does not again address the issue of ECD. It is good that ECD has been taken from social development to Department of Education, basic education. But what we know now is that there's not much funding. I think government only contributes 27%. Yeah. The rest, these ECD sectors are funding for themselves.
Professor Madiba, how crucial is it for educators, researchers as well, and policymakers to have access to timely updates and information which relates to the SONA in really shaping meaningful discussions about the future of education in this country?
You see, I think these days we are living in the age of data. You need information, you need data, accurate data, because accurate data will be able to help us. For example, I'm talking ECD. We just get some of the information from the census 2021. But you see, you need this information to be provided. That's what I'm saying. If the government can be honest, we have tried our level best, but these are the areas where there are blockages. These are the areas where we are experiencing challenges, and so on and so on. So for us as scientists, we can try to glean data from different sources and so on. But at the same time, I think government also should do the same. Be honest where they've got data and put that data to the public.
Again, the issue of the economy comes to light here. SONA 2024 is expected to address economic recovery strategies. In your view, how can education then play a role in contributing to the economic revival outlined in some of the areas that will be addressed?
You see, education is the pillar. Education is the pillar because when you think of economy, we talk about economy, we're talking about the population that can pay tax. If you look, only 4 million people now are able to contribute to tax base. But the more you've got your people educated, then you've got a broader tax base. You are donor people who depend on you and so on. So I think SONA should really be able to look at the issue of skills, because that is the most important thing. How do you come up with a system that equips your learners with relevant skills, not just skills, relevant skills now, the age of the 4IR. So that kind of thing, the TVET really should be the backbone of our country, our education system. But they are poorly equipped. Nobody trusts those qualifications. There are only a few TVET colleges that have produced quality qualifications. Most of them don't. So I think, focus on those areas that can really support the economy, those areas that can provide skills, for our learners. Yeah. They don't have to go to university. Only a handful should go to higher education and so on. But the majority of our learners should be feeling our TVET colleges well equipped. By the time they finish, they are able to run the economy of our country. So that is an area that, regrettably, it's really neglected.
Professor Madiba, as we wrap up our conversation, while I do acknowledge that you're not speaking to us as a political analyst, but I have to ask you this. The additional research that we conducted suggests a growing trend of skepticism and disinterest in the SONA. How might the public's perception of this political event then impact the education sector? And what measures could be taken to rekindle public interest in this address?
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm saying. The academics are researchers. They find facts. They get figures. They've got data. So anyone who's delivering a State of the Nation address need to be accurate. You need to address those figures because otherwise, sitting here we've got the data and that speaks louder than what the president is saying. So it's not fair. So I think that's what I said. There should be credibility in what the president is saying. It must be backed by the data that is also found somewhere. That's why I say they need to be balanced.